What's up, nerds? My name is Steve from Flipping the Nerd, and this is my top 10 favorite non-MCU Marvel films. This weekend was San Diego Comic-Con, and what better way to celebrate San Diego Comic-Con than to talk about Marvel films. I'm recording this on a Sunday, the day that this video comes out, so I got to see all the really cool stuff coming in the next few years for Marvel, and it's mind-blowing how amazing it is. But we're not talking about that because this is my favorite non-MCU films. If you want to see my favorite MCU films, check out the link in the description below. I've already done that list. And if you're here to see my top 10 favorite clowns, and I know my friend Gabby is going to be super disappointed about this, that's going to be next week. I just pushed it off a week. I thought it'd make more sense to have this list during the weekend of Comic-Con. I guess I just hadn't planned it out right. I was on the wrong weekend for this list. So I just reversed it too. And here you have it, my favorite non-MCU films for Marvel, and my clowns will be next week. I hope you check that out. It's going to be fun to talk about all the different clowns that I love. One more note for this list. There are no animated films included. I might do a separate list one day of just Marvel animated films because there are quite a few that I like very much. And had it been, I think Spider-Man Into the Multiverse would have definitely been in my top 10. But no animated films, so that's that. So let's get into some honorable mentions. The very first one, Blade 3, Blade Trinity. I talked a little bit about it last week in my top 10 favorite wrestlers, movies that had wrestlers in it or something, because Triple H is in this film, and he is a great guy, great wrestler, terrible actor. But the movie's actually pretty good. It's got, of course, Wesley Snipes returning as Blade, and it's got Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel as two of his allies in the movie, with the villain being played by Dominic Purcell. I just didn't feel that this was the strongest of the Blade films. There was just a little bit of something that was missing. It was a little too campy. The villains just didn't do it for me. I thought the villains in number 2 were so much stronger. So overall, not one of my favorites, but I thought it still deserved an honorable mention. Then we have The Amazing Spider-Man. This is the Spider-Man starring Andrew Garfield. This one had the Lizard as a villain, which was really cool. He looked a little weird, but I liked his size and the way he was. So overall, I'd say I really liked him as a villain. Way better than Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which you will not hear about on this list. I thought it was an okay film. He is my least favorite of the Spider-Men that we've had so far, but it's still Spider-Man. That's my favorite superhero, so I gave it, I guess, a little bit more love just for that reason alone. I like the costume quite a bit. I just didn't feel Andrew Garfield was all that great as Peter Parker. I did like his Spider-Man, but as Peter Parker, I just didn't feel it. But still enjoyable enough to at least get an honorable mention. Then we have the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four is one of my favorite comics. Galactus is my favorite villain. Doctor Doom is my second favorite villain, and The Thing is my second favorite hero. So there's a lot I love about the Fantastic Four. And the first movie of the Fantastic Four series, this is the one from 2004, not that garbage that came out a few years ago. I kind of enjoyed it. It was lacking a little bit. I didn't like the Thing, like the way they made the Thing. I love Michael Chiklis as the Thing, but I thought they should have made him bigger, kind of like he is in the comic. I hated what they did with Doctor Doom. I love the actor, but God, they just messed up Doctor Doom completely, and that really sucked. But I thought the rest of the Fantastic Four were kind of okay. You had Chris Evans as Human Torch. You had, oh my God, I don't remember his name, but anyway, the Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman, Jessica Alba, and Ian Gruffudd or something were kind of good in their roles. And I thought that they could make really good sequel. Oh man, was I wrong? I'm not even going to go there. I hated that sequel with a passion, being such a big Galactus fan. But anyway, that's a whole other story. I did enjoy the first Fantastic Four enough to give it an honorable mention. Then we have Ghost Rider. I liked Ghost Rider. I know it's super bad and a lot of people don't. I even liked Nick Cage playing the role. What bugged me about this movie more than anything are the villains. I didn't care for Mephisto or Blackheart. I thought they looked kind of ridiculous. Mephisto was just a guy, essentially. Blackheart just looked bad. And the movie was okay. You know, I kind of enjoyed it. I thought Ghost Rider looked really good. They really nailed the look of Ghost Rider. And I enjoyed the first one enough to give it an honorable mention. I did not like the second again. So you're seeing a theme here. Second movies, man, Amazing Spider-Man, bad second movie. Fantastic Four, bad second movie. Ghost Rider, bad second movie. These second movies, they're just not working out for these honorable mentions. But let's break the mold, because my last one is a second movie, and that's Blade 2. I really liked Blade 2. Just missed out on the list. Like, I was really thinking about it, because I do really like Blade 2. I like the Blade series. And this one was like the scariest. It had the best villains. I did like, was it Nick Frost or something Frost? Deacon Frost. Is that it? Deacon Frost from the first one? But Blade 2 had overall just a really cool story and everything. And Norman Reedus is in it and everything. So I did enjoy it quite a bit, but not quite enough to hit my top 10. So let's get into it. Here are my top 10. Number 10. Venom. I didn't think I would like Venom when I first went to see it, and this is a kind of on the line non-MCU film, because there are rumors that it might one day tie into the MCU, but who knows. But as far as I'm concerned, until we get a straight up character from the MCU or confirmation from Marvel, it's not part of the MCU. Here, Venom is actually well made. Spider-Man 3 had completely ruined it with Topher Grace. So seeing kind of a proper Venom was really cool. And Tom Hardy really had a tough role to play, because he plays Eddie Brock and Venom, and they fight with each other, and there's a really interesting dynamic that I wasn't expecting from this film. There's some good humor, there's some good action sequences, and overall I really enjoyed this film. Where I kind of lower it on my list is, one, it's very dark. Like, I can't see a lot of what's going on, I mean. And number two, I didn't like the villain Riot. I'm so tired of the trope where the villain has to be a carbon copy of the hero. We see it so many times. Sometimes it works out well, but often it doesn't, and I'm just getting tired of it. So it would have been cool to see Venom fight someone else. Of course, I say that as they confirm Carnage from Part 2, which is also kind of another Venom, but Carnage is cool. I'm gonna pull an exception to my own rule there, but overall, surprised me a lot. I thought Venom was a strong choice for this list. Number 9. X-Men Days of Future Past. So this is the X-Men movie where they brought in the kind of Bryan Singer X-Men with the Matthew Vaughn X-Men, which are the two kind of generations of X-Men, the older ones and the younger ones. And I thought they did a great job of melding the two. I do like both series in their own ways. I prefer the older series more, and you'll see that reflected on my list. But the Matthew Vaughn series was also really solid. I did really like to see the young Magneto and a young Professor X and all that stuff. And I really liked having Wolverine at the center of this film, and kind of seeing the alternate future, and finally seeing Sentinels. There was a lot to like about this movie, and yeah, it was just a fun ride. And I don't know what else to say. I actually really dug this one. It kind of fixed everything at the end there. We got to see Beast come back, and there's a lot to love about this movie, and that's why I put it on my list. Number 8. Blade. Yep, all 3 Blades made it somewhere in my list today. Well, only Blade on my actual list. The music alone gives Blade a chance to be on this top 10. But I love the visuals of this one. It was cool to see a Marvel character done right, which really I had never seen before. I'm trying to think. I don't think there was a single Marvel film that I enjoyed before Blade, because X-Men was after, and there was really nothing else. There was that old crappy Fantastic Four from before it. There's a couple Spider-Man film, Captain America, but they're all terrible. The Hulk films weren't that great either. So yeah, it was cool to see a cool like Marvel character, and I really like this one. It's very dark, it's very moody, but it makes sense, and it's just the music, my God, it's just so awesome. I enjoy this movie tremendously, and it's something I like to watch once in a while, so definitely deserving of a spot on the list. Number 7, X-Men, the original Bryan Singer version. A lot to like about this film. So it was cool to see the X-Men make it on screen. So Blade, I didn't know a lot about before he came on screen, so I didn't have like a big attachment to it other than he was a Marvel character. I had seen him, but I didn't know much about him. X-Men was different. I watched the X-Men cartoon a lot. I read some of the comics, so I was super psyched to see them come to life. Wolverine was great, even though I was kind of bummed out about the costume. I didn't get to see the classic Wolverine costume, which we never saw, which I'm sure they'll do in the MCU because that's what's going to make him different. But getting introduced to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was cool. Getting to see like Storm and Professor X and a really cool Magneto. There's a lot to love about this film. The music's fantastic, the story's good, and it was a good first film to launch this series. And that is why I put it on the list. Number 6. Deadpool 2. I really love the Deadpool character in the movies. I'm not a huge fan of his in the comic. I find him a little bit annoying, but in the movies, I love Deadpool, and Deadpool 2 was a really cool film. We got to see a way better Juggernaut than we did in X-Men 3. I forget what the subtitle of X-Men 3 was, the one with the Phoenix. So that was really cool. Deadpool did a lot of the same stuff. We got to see Cable, which was super awesome. Domino, which was awesome. So yeah, there was a lot to love about this movie. I laughed all the way through. There were some great moments. It was cool to see Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool the whole time, which we didn't in the first one because he does play, it's an origin story, so it kind of plays a little bit. It makes fun of itself, which is hilarious, and I just really enjoyed my time with Deadpool 2, and that's why I put it on the list. Number 5. Deadpool. Deadpool 1. The only reason I like Deadpool 1 more than 2 is because it was the first one. I think if I looked at him objectively and kind of looked at the 2, I would probably like Deadpool 2 more, but this isn't the best ones. This is my favorite ones. And I have more, even though it's kind of recent, more nostalgia for Deadpool 1 than I do for Deadpool 2, and that's what gives it the tiny nod above it. It was just, I didn't know how they would do this character because he's so out there, you know, how he narrates to people and he makes all those crazy jokes, and it just worked. Ryan Reynolds is the master. He is hilarious, and I was so happy. I watched this movie with a grin on my face the entire hour and 40, 50 minutes, whatever it was. I just loved the hell out of this movie. What this movie was missing was a good villain, which I didn't think it had. So that's unfortunate, but Deadpool, fantastic film. And we got to see a proper Colossus. They didn't really give us a proper Colossus in the X-Men movies, other than a super tiny glimpse in X-Men 2 United. But we got a proper Colossus finally in this movie, and that, man, I bow down for that because I always loved Colossus since I was a kid. So Deadpool, that's my number 5. Number 4, Spider-Man, the original with Tobey Maguire. Again, Spider-Man is by far my favorite superhero, so this was a huge moment for me to finally see a proper Spider-Man on film, and this film mostly didn't disappoint. The costume was great, to see the origin story happen for the first time, Macho Man Randy Savage as Bonesaw. There was a lot to love about this movie, and we got a cameo from Bruce Campbell, which I'm always down for. I mean, I have his autograph right here. He's a great dude. I've always been a fan of his. The only thing that this movie was missing was a better costume for the villain, because I love William Dafoe, so he was great as the Green Goblin, but man, that costume just didn't do it for me, and that is unfortunate. I saw they had, what is it, pictures that they showed recently of what his costume could have looked like and what it should have looked like, but they didn't go with it, and that really, really sucks. had they done a proper costume for Green Goblin, this might have been my favorite Spider-Man film. It's not. Spoiler alert. There's another one coming up at some point in the list, with only 3 to go. But yeah, so that's what this movie was missing. Overall, fantastic film. Number 3. X2 X-Men United. That's the second of the Bryan Singer films. This movie took everything that was good about the first one and brought it into the second and fixed a lot of stuff I didn't like about the first and put it in it. There's a lot to love about them. They're forced to join together. There are more heroes added, like Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was so friggin' cool in this movie, and I absolutely loved it. I loved how they were playing with the mind games and everything. We got to see a better version of Wolverine. Hugh Jackman turned it up a notch in this movie, and that was cool. We got to see a proper Colossus for like 3 seconds, and that got me super excited because I am such a big fan of Colossus. Unfortunately, oh my god, and this always breaks my heart. So he goes down the hall, he becomes Colossus, and he tells Wolverine, "Can I come help?" He's like, "No, stay here." I'm like, no, go with them. I want to see you. And anyway, there's just a lot to love about this movie. It's the best of all the X-Men films that have been released, in my opinion, kind of. X-Men as a group. Hint for the next one. But overall, I really, really dug this film. It's one that's very rewatchable. And yeah, definitely a fantastic film. Number 2. Logan. The third solo Wolverine film, which, as you can see, I didn't talk about any of the other solo Wolverine films, so that tells you something. Logan was such a different type of superhero film that we really hadn't gotten before. It's very dark. It's very serious. You have a decrepit Professor X. You have a broken down Logan, and you have a future character in X-23. There's a lot to love about this movie. This movie was amazing. And I would say that as far as non-MCU films go, this is the best non-MCU film. As far as quality goes, acting and everything. Now, this isn't the best list. This is my favorite, and that's why it's number 2 and not number 1. But I respect the hell out of this film. It is just almost perfect for what they were trying to do. They nailed the old man Logan, and I bow down to this movie. I really wish we could get more like these. I don't know if we will under the MCU, but remains to be seen. Still, Logan, you are the man, but not quite my number 1. Number 1, Spider-Man 2. I think that Spider-Man being my favorite superhero has a lot to do as to why this one beat out Logan. And everything I told you about Spider-Man 1, it did kind of the same thing, but on top of that, it had a fantastic villain in Doc Ock, Dr. Octopus. I didn't talk about it in the first Spider-Man, but J. Jonah Jameson is also amazing in the series. I mean, just fantastic character. Doc Ock was really, really well done. I just love this movie to death. There are great action sequences. The sequence with the train and people, like the people in New York banding together, and they find out his identity, but they don't tell anyone because they respect him so much. I love this movie to death. And yeah, and that's why he works for the Daily Bugle in this, which is so cool because that's what I had grown up with, having watched the Spider-Man 67 series. I just love this movie to death. It's such an amazing movie. I don't think it's as good of a movie as Logan is, like I said before, but it's one I like better because it's Spider-Man and it's so cool. And this is a movie I'd been waiting for since I was a child, to get a proper villain from the Spider-Man group of villains and to get the Spider-Man I grew up with on screen. Not knowing that one day I would see a better version of Spider-Man, but that's an MCU film, so we're not talking about it. And that is my list. What are your favorite non-MCU films? Did I cover all the ones that you did? Did I forget one, as I often do? I'd love to know which ones you think should be on your list, because of course I'm talking from my list. Love to know yours. And check out next week. I got my top 10 favorite clowns. Yes, I'm very happy about that list. It's going to be a fun list to do. And like I said, check out in the description below so you can see my top 10 favorite MCU films if you're curious about that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the flip side. Goodbye.